Hello friends, welcome to another reel from Bharat Raghu. Today we will be looking at the history of the left in general in India, history of the Indian left. When we say Indian left, we'll be traversing the journey of how the left started from the time of freedom movement and where has it reached today, and who do we mean by left when we say that. So history of the left, Indian left. So I'll be referring to this book, Vijay Prashad, No Free Left. Vijay Prashad, one of the very great authors, historians, No Free Left. So I'll be referring to this book. Okay, so I'll start with one interesting thing, and this kind of is the epitome of what the history of the left has been in India. So let's first understand, when we say left in India, whom do we refer to? So in India, there have been two streams of the left in India. So one is the socialist stream and the other is the communist stream. So the entire concept of the left, as we know, goes back to Europe, and that's where the left, the term comes, who were in favor of reform and revolution after the French Revolution, sat on the left side of the aisle of the parliament, and they were in favor of reform and continuing the revolution, and those who were favoring the conservatives or pro-monarchy were called the right, and that's how the terms left and right come about. But coming back to the Indian context, so the Russian Revolution basically marks like the main event in history, world history, which then brings the seed called socialism. This term socialism becomes very popular. And then let's come to the Indian context. So the Indian context, you have two broad streams of streams of parties who are fighting the British imperialism. One is the Congress Party, the Indian National Congress, and then there are lots of revolutionary streaks, and amongst those revolutionary streaks are many of those like Bhagat Singh and his comrades, or it could be in Bengal, Jatin Das, and so many other, Anushilin Samiti. There were in South, there were lots of groups, and there was this budding communist movement, which was modeled after the Bolshevik party in Russia. So these were the revolutionary streaks. So till the freedom struggle, the Congress Party and the you can say the socialists, the communists were working closely. So let's understand who were those. So there's one very famous letter by Dange. Dange was one of the leaders of the communist movement from Maharashtra, one of the pioneers, also one of the founding, leading members of the Communist Party of India. So he had written a pamphlet in 1921. It was entitled as Gandhi versus Lenin, while sympathetic to Gandhi, came out in favor of Lenin. Okay, why? Gandhiism admits all the vices from which the society of our day is suffering, all the vices emanating from the rule of capitalism. It also concedes that capitalism will stoop to anything to preserve its authority, and a revolution or a radical change alone can redeem society. But the point where Bolshevism, which is basically communism, and Gandhiism are deadly opposed, is that of the methods to work out the revolution in society. So he basically kinds of points out that Gandhiism is more, as again put, Gandhi's socialism, as also referred to in this book, is called Sarvodaya, compassion for all, Sarvodaya. So Gandhi was an advocate of the workers. Gandhi was the advocate of the business classes as well. So he was an advocate of not revolution, he was an advocate of reconciliation, basically. So Sarvodaya. But whereas Lenin, as we know, who's the founder of the Russian, one of the leading members of the Russian communist movement, and one of the world leaders of communism, he had mainly stressed on the fact that revolution was the only way possible. So revolution, which means that which can basically overthrow the ruling classes and have the working classes established. That's where Gandhi and Lenin differ. So this is where it starts off, as we can see. And there are socialist groups within the Congress. There's one called Congress Socialist Party, which starts off, and it has members of even the Communist Party, like Namboodiripad, one of the Kerala's great communist leaders. So it has them as well in the Congress Socialist Party. There are even leaders who are like M.N. Roy. There are leaders even like Jai Prakash Narayan, and then Ram Manohar Lohia. So they all are part of this Congress Socialist Party. Now, where they differ is slowly, as basically we start approaching freedom, and then after the freedom struggle, there's this separate group, the Socialists. The Socialists are kind of led by Ram Manohar Lohia and Jai Prakash Narayan. So they are like the figureheads of the socialist movement. Now, who are the socialists? The socialists were for revolution with democratic means, and they were more integrated with the caste realities of India. So the Socialist Party is what later goes on and becomes the Janata Party. So they don't necessarily take in all the tenets of Marxism. So they don't describe themselves as Marxists. So they take the tenets of socialism and apply it to the caste inequalities basically in society, and that resulted in parties which today exist, like the Samajwadi Party in UP, the RJD, Lalu's RJD, and you also have a lot of other north parties which have stemmed out of the Janata Dal, and all of these have stemmed out of the Socialist Party, which later goes on. It has many names. It starts off Socialist Party, it goes on become the Janata Party, which wins the election, the Janata Party, the Janata Dal, but then what happens, the break is after when they form the government. There the Janata Party as such, which is basically the socialists, as well it has the basically the Jan Sangh, which is the precursor to the BJP, which come very close and work, and that kind of dilutes this entire socialist image, and it ceases to be one big party, and it breaks into splinter groups, which later, as I said, in UP, in Bihar, in the North Indian belt, many of the precursors, basically many of the successors, to the erstwhile Socialist Party of the Ram Manohar Lohia movement is what, and that's what, and they still exist today, but most of them are, you can call them dynastic parties, because they have a figurehead. They are run by figureheads, basically descendants of the great the people, the great movers. Okay, so coming to the other strand of the left, which is the communists. So the communists, as we know, went on, especially the parliamentary left. So again, the communists have a split where the parliamentary left or the parliamentary communists are those who subscribe to the parliamentary system of Indian democracy, Indian constitution, ran for elections and started forming state governments like in Kerala, in Bengal. So the communists have ruled as part of the left front, as they call it, along with many other parties, like even including Subhash's former party, the All India Forward Bloc, is part of the left front in Bengal, in Kerala. So they have, and Tripura. So they have been running successive governments, and they have been part of the parliamentary system. There was another strand who did not accept the parliamentary system and who followed the Mao Zedong method of revolution, complete revolution, which starts off from the rural areas, and then they wanted to have a complete revolution and using basically the gun. So that those who later on are called, of course, the Naxals and the Maoists, so who have been sidelined. So basically the parliamentary left is what still remains, the communist parties who have been, so the stalwarts include in Bengal Jyoti Basu, who went on to become the chief minister of Bengal successively for multiple terms, and the left front in Bengal has ran for almost 34 years, and it was one of those governments which did major land reforms in Bengal and breaking the zamindari system and giving land to the tiller. So that was one of their great achievements. And also in Kerala, of course, the communist Namboodiripad was the CM, and then there have been stalwarts in the Kerala communist movement, including the present CM, of course, Pinarayi Vijayan, who is the current CM of Kerala. So they have been pioneers of, they have achieved highest literacy rates in the state. The Kerala human indices are comparable to Europe. The human indices like literacy and child mortality and even infant mortality, the basic the nutrition values, so those kind of have been really remarkable in Kerala, and that is one of the achievements of the communists. So this is kind of the splinter. Coming back to the other, whom you can also, there was a strand in the Congress after the socialist split and the communist split. It was basically under Nehru. So Nehru himself ascribed himself as a socialist, and Nehru wanted to build a socialist India. And he, again, not subscribing to any doctrinaire or doctrines like Marxism, but he took from the good from Marxism. He studied the good out of the labor movement in Britain, the Labour Party, the Fabianism, the Fabian model, which is like the basically the parliamentary socialist model without using democratic means. And he was really attracted to this kind of Fabian socialism. So he became like the face of Indian socialism. After independence, he was the face of Indian socialism. So of course that has diluted in the Congress because there is no specific ideology. Congress is a big tent party which has people from the left, people who ascribe to a more left ideology. It would have centrists who are just pure liberals, and it also has leaders leaning to the right or more conservative. So it's a big tent party. So we cannot say that Congress, but this has been the history as such of the left in India. And there is the Communist Party conference going on, which they have like a party congress every 5 years where they re-elect the general secretary. They discuss on the labor movements, they discuss on the peasant movements, worker movements, and that's kind of in progress. Let's see what it brings to the future of the left in India. Thanks for watching. Bharat Raghu signing off.